Hey guys, it's Jake. This is the Behringer WING. This is a worship leader, Aaron. This is a sound guy, Eric, and we are at South Fellowship Church back in the sound booth. And I wanted to do this is really a 4-month review for you guys of using this Behringer WING. This board has gotten a lot of hype over the past year or so. I think it was announced in December or November of 2019. You guys purchased this in July of 2020, so now you've been using it week in and week out for worship ministry. So, first question I have, and either one of you can go first. How about, you know what, I'll interrogate Aaron first. Why did you guys purchase the Behringer WING, and maybe give us a little context of what you were coming from before that?
Yeah, our previous board was the Behringer X32, so obviously great workhorse kind of a board. But we actually moved to this. We've been toying around with upgrading to something like this for a while, but then when COVID happened and we were doing broadcast, this just makes that broadcast feed a lot easier than from the Behringer board. And so it just gives Eric a ton more flexibility to dial in that broadcast feed. It also allowed us to plug in some different tools a little bit more efficiently for like pitch correction, things like that. So it was really to just up our game for broadcast for COVID life.
And you guys already have the stage boxes, the Behringer stage boxes, S16s, and the P16 monitoring units. So switching this out with the X32 is pretty straightforward, right? Everything's AES50 to network the audio. So you didn't really have to upgrade any of the other audio routing solutions there.
Nope. I mean, the routing logic, yes, but not the actual equipment. Yep. So the equipment was all just one for one. So that was a great, simple upgrade as far as the equipment's concerned. The only thing we lost is the iPad app, which is, they've got some routing options for an iPad app, but they're still in the process of building the same robust interface for iPad. So that's the only thing we really lost, and everything else was an upgrade.
Yeah, and that kind of is my next question, is kind of like, what's it like being an early adopter of a newer mixing console like this when the company releases the product and they're like, oh yeah, there's a bunch of other things that are going to come out to support this product. We don't know when. And some of them are critical, right? Like a Dante expansion card, that would be like the biggest thing keeping me from buying this mixing console right now, is they don't have it available yet. And who knows when. But for you guys, like none of those were big enough deal breakers?
Yeah, I mean, you could talk to Eric a little bit about some of that too, but I think for us, we don't currently use Dante Network as a cornerstone of our setup. So that was not an issue. I think it's a case-by-case basis. Like, you have to see what features they support. But like I said, there was that iPad app actually was the one downgrade, as it were, because it's kind of nice being able to walk around the room and get almost 100% access to every single feature through the iPad app. Now you actually have to walk back almost like 5 years ago, like you had to walk to the console. It's ridiculous. But they are in the process of working on that. So
cool. Yeah, Eric, share your thoughts. Especially, I'd like to hear kind of anything you'd have to add to that, but also when Aaron was talking about the greater flexibility for mixing broadcast, how about you show us how you've got things set up to mix for broadcast?
So starting off, the biggest thing I had to overcome when setting this up was understanding the new languages. They reference everything as sources, whether it's an input or an output. And keeping those straight in my head as I was laying out the board to be working our normal Sunday services and try and make it as seamless for the band and everything. But the plus sides to the board that I've noticed is where on the X32 we only had one main left and right out. The Wing actually incorporated 4 separate left-right outs. And so I was able to program in one for the house, one for our fellowship area, one for our live stream. And I can go in and effect change to each one individually at the channel level. But on the channels themselves, they actually become DCAs for that feed. So I set an overall volume to each of the each of the outputs. And then whenever I make a change to the house mix, it's affecting all the other mixes, even though they might be slightly different.
Okay, maybe show me what you just kind of explained, because so you're saying, because you're not talking about just other mix buses, you're talking about actual main left and right outs. You have more of those?
Actual main left and right outs. So on the board itself, they have 4 separate left-right outs. We've set up one for our mains,
Okay.
one for our fellowship area, and one for the live stream. And we have a spare one that we can use for another output source.
Okay, that's awesome. You got them labeled.
Get them labeled.
Awesome. Okay.
And so if I select like my left-right mains,
Yep.
and I do my sense on fader, all my channels are mixed, pretty equally across the board. From my lead worship, or my pastor, to my vocalist, to my band. But if I switch over to my live stream, you'll notice that my mix is different.
Okay.
So
Nice.
then when I go off a sense-off fader, this actually becomes a DCA that controls the overall output across all feeds.
So that. Oh, okay. Okay, that's cool. Okay, so it's like this hybrid of, you can adjust, like you said, the channels are a DCA that affects the output for all feeds, and I'm just repeating what you said because I'm literally wrapping my mind around it in real time. But I think this will be interesting for folks watching. But then you can still do the sends on fader like you would with a mix bus to get that independent mix as well.
Correct.
Okay, that's cool.
So in certain cases, the band is really loud and full. But when we get down to a pastor or an announcement mic, it's not as loud. So I can actually boost those up in specific mixes outside of the band, and I can control that volume on their individual outputs.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's actually, that's actually part of the reason why we went this route, is like it allows Eric to mix both broadcast and house simultaneously, because he can sort of, in an ideal world, we have a separate sound guy for broadcast and a separate sound guy for the house, but he basically is able to set gain levels universally for all outputs, then go in and he knows, like, for broadcast, I need a little bit more of this, this, and this to make the broadcast feel full. But if I do that same thing in the house, it like overdrives it or sounds too bassy or whatever. And so he's able to do that. But then throughout the mix, most of the time he's just mixing the house, and he knows that he's got the slight tweak for the broadcast already built in, like baked into that mix. So for the most part, you're just using broadcast channels. The house, you're mixing the house, and you know that the broadcast is modified sort of like by best practices for frequencies and fullness. So
Yeah, is there anything else that stands out of the advantages you have with this console compared to the X32?
So there's a lot of additional functionality, especially when it comes to the channels. We have a channel strip that allows for 2 inserts,
show us kind of an example of that, and maybe explain how it's different from the way you used to set it up.
So in here, I have, when I select a channel, I have my home, which gives me the complete overview of what's going on this channel. I have then channel inputs. So inputs, actually, they've created a main input and an alternate input. So with a quick switch of a button, I can alternate to a different source. In our case, we use this I do a multi-track recording onto SD cards using their built-in multi-track recorder. And then I program this to actually say, okay, my main input is going to be from the microphone. My alternate input is from the card. So I can easily switch back and play back what's on the recording right off the bat. Then we go in and we have multiple controls where we can put in a gate, a de-esser, a auto writer for gain and compression, and an EQ prior to our actual EQ in the board itself.
So how many different effects can you apply to one channel?
So we have 2 built in to the effects. Then I have a couple other insert points that I can actually use one of the 8 premium or 8 standard effects.
Okay.
Or I can route it out to, like I have our computer set up to through the USB. I can do a pitch correction using one of those effects connections.
You guys do pitch correction.
We do pitch correction.
Oh man, you just sold your souls to the devil. Come on, come on.
Actually, you know, with pitch correction, we did learn in-house, pitch was not really a big issue because of the ambient room. It really just swallows that up.
Yep.
But when we went to live stream and you started to hear what was actually being in the
broadcast.
in the broadcast, that pitch really became very noticeable and very discordant for the viewers.
Yeah.
And so by adding that in, we actually were able to correct, just tweak that a little bit.
Let me just answer for some of the commenters. Or your worship leader, Aaron, could just have perfect pitch. Come on, man.
Yeah, I could.
Come on.
Yeah, so I think that's a great, actually, so this is an answer to both the pitch question and how this console's allowed it. Like, he, with a single button, because these buttons over here are programmable, he can shut off that external effect. Essentially, this laptop is an external effect processor. We just happen to be using a pitch corrector as the effect built in. So in addition to the built-in effects, he's routing to this software, and then we can plug in all sorts of other effects. In fact, we have a multi-band compressor running on most of our vocals as well as the pitch correction externally. But if this laptop were ever to fail, with one button press, he can reroute it so that it's instantly back to just a standard inboard mix. And we would shut off pitch correction and all the external effects processors, and there's no worry about a laptop failure.
Wow.
So that's one of the other things that's really handy about this board. Now, the question of pitch correction, like he said, in the house, what I've found is ambient sound is the healer of many pitch issues. And I think vocalists sing, even with in-ear monitors, they sing to the ambience of a space. And I've just noticed that when you're on recording versus in a space, in a large cavernous space like this, you just adjust your pitch. So you could do an experiment if you want. If you don't believe me, if you do a recording of yourself singing in a small space without in-ear monitors and everything like that, and you can hear yourself very clearly, your pitch will be better than if you do that same song in a large cavernous space, and it's the same vocalist with the same ear and the same ability to control pitch. This just heals that little tiny dissonance between the ambient room and stuff, and then it just tightens up your harmonies and it clears it out. So,
in other words, you're just a sellout.
That's right. I'm a sellout. No,
you guys know.
A sellout along with every professional musician.
You guys know. Well, I'm just trolling him before the commenters can troll him.
Bring it on.
I have a video that has tens of thousands of views about how to kind of do a similar setup to what you see here with live autotune. I think it's a great tool. And explain to us a little bit more, because I kind of like how you're doing a hybrid. You've kind of created your own. It's like you're using Wave Sound Grid, but kind of a budget-friendly version of it. What exactly are you doing here with the computer and the mixer?
So with the computer, I already had a program called Reaper that I installed on. And when we started with the whole looking at pitch correction, I bought the plugins for the
Waves.
Yeah. And I looked at also Waves actually has a multi-rack unit. That really wasn't budget friendly at that time. So to just try it out, I used the program I had actually on my computer. And so what I'm doing is feeding from the USB as an output from the Wing into my laptop, and then I map that out in the Reaper program, in through the effects, and then back into the computer through an insert point, or through the Wing.
Can we show them the external processor?
Yeah.
All right, so the...
Take my vocal since it needs lots of pitch correction.
So taking his, we are... come back here. Going to the effects. So I'm taking an external effects processor, which uses one of my 8. And I'm going out, and you can see I'm going out USB audio 1 and 2. Into the laptop through my routing. And you'll have to bear with me because I'm always looking for it. My channel 1 here is going... my input is 1, and my output is 1. So I'm coming back in. It is not a stereo feed. I'm not running that because we really don't need stereo on a mono voice. And then it feeds right into the pitch correction. If I take my last Sunday's service and feed that in, and bring up Aaron's voice, you can actually see it is feeding in, it's doing pitch correction, and then comes back into the thing. Actually, if I bring that in. If I were to mute both of my feeds, I'm still getting feed through, but if I were to change that input, it would actually stop coming into the channel itself.
So explain again though, how is the Wing allowing you to apply the auto-tune only for your live stream mix? Like, is there a place where...
It's actually applying auto-tune to all of it.
Oh, live and live stream.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say, if you're able to do that separately, that would be kind of crazy. But through the one...
There's no advantage. It's such a minor addition, and actually, it's such a minor tweak in the house, it's just gonna improve the house as well.
Yeah.
And we actually... So part of this journey was a process of early COVID, I was doing all of our worship services in post, right? We're recording midweek, and then I'm editing, and I learned a lot about post-production audio editing, and you're using compressors, and you're able to do a lot more stuff. And so one of the reasons we went to the Wing was I wanted to sort of try and duplicate the massive amount of post-production power of multi-band compressors, and to bring a vocal out further into the mix, and all of these sorts of things that we'd learned, and do it live. Why not, if we can? And the Wing allows us to almost use all the same plugins, because we are, in fact, I can actually run the same software. I can actually use the same mix template that I used in post-production through a laptop live.
How's latency and what buffer sizes are you guys using? What buffer size on that computer to process?
So on the computer itself, so right now on my audio, I'm running 256, or no, yes I go. 512.
Okay.
But I've actually successfully, with the upgrade to this laptop, been able to run 8.
8? And it doesn't give it doesn't had it didn't
And
do
I had a little pop once.
Oh.
So
Wow.
he did upgrade his laptop.
Yeah, what is that laptop?
It's the Omron 15.
It's a gaming laptop.
It's a gaming laptop.
So what are the specs?
I would have to...
Is it a quad core, 8 core?
It's a i7 6 core.
Okay. Wow. And that's
So-
all the laptop is doing is just those plugins. Right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is Eric's laptop, so eventually the church needs to get another one. But it was sort of he wanted to upgrade anyway. He's playing with the system, and so therefore it worked out. And we got a lot of these ideas from the video that you referenced about pitch correction. That's why we started with Waves. We evaluated the several other softwares, and then we went and I remember you mentioned like right around the 10 millisecond mark is where your ear can really hear that. So we're running what 6 milliseconds.
So if I were to, that gives me an idea here.
That's at 512. If it's only that 8 to 6 milliseconds, that's surprising.
128 samples. Usually I have it plugged in at 128, and that's just under 9 or under 10 milliseconds.
Okay, 128 makes sense then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
You guys should never. Why do you take advice from me? I have no clue what I'm doing.
Well, we tested it.
Yeah.
Like you did enough homework to be right. Let's put it that way.
Good.
So we tested it because we heard the difference initially when we first started testing it, and he basically on his old laptop he basically said, you know what, I really wanted to upgrade my laptop anyway. This is just an inciting incident for me to do so, and then he was able to get incredibly good, better latency on this new one, and then we bump it up just for safety margin and case, and because of the wing, we're able to, if this ever fails or he starts getting a pop, one button press, it just closes the loop, like basically shuts off the USB external effects processor and goes straight through to the feed, to the channel. So
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
now, mind you, when you do that, the multi-band compressor combined with this, you lose tons of body in the vocals. It's a massive difference in quality of vocal through the effects processor externally. The multi-band compressor is just incredible, how full it makes the vocal sound.
Okay, so show me your plug-in chain one more time in Reaper then. So you're
Can you show them the multi-band?
Yeah.
like on, yeah.
So if we go over to the multi-band.
Yeah, so that's the same one we're using in our, everybody's using in their DAW templates.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that's it, just the multi-band and
the
auto-tune.
pitch correction. And then the rest of it's all done in board.
Okay. Cool.
I think, and I just learned in post-production how powerful the multi-band compressor is, because you can take a vocal and just say, I essentially want to compress just these frequency ranges, you know?
Yeah.
That's why multi-band is so powerful, is if I don't need a ton of bass compressed. Most compressors just compresses the entire frequency range of that, particular input. With vocals, I know that this frequency range is what allows me to cut through the mix just enough, and I can just push that through.
Yeah.
Awesome. Anything else, guys? In terms of would you go? I'm assuming the answer is yes, but if you went back 3 months and purchased this, would you do that again? Was it worth it in the end?
Yeah, I think so. I think it. Our goal was to, when we went to full broadcast live, we knew that we were going to take a quality dip from a post-produced service, but we wanted to narrow the gap between the quality of post-produced services and live services, and this board definitely allowed us to do that. There is, maybe we can talk about this later.
Talk about why someone might not want this board yet, or why.
The learning curve's huge. I would have to say, from being the one who set up the X32 when we first got it, to setting this up, I took a week to actually get it in, plugged in, and then understand how does the board work. There are things I'm still finding out that I forget. Oh my gosh, that insert is turned on. Why am I not getting any sound? Well, my laptop's not hooked up. So there's a lot of checklists I have to go through my head every time I run sound or turn it on. But the benefits outweigh the fact that everything is a stereo channel. In the board itself, it allows us to not eat up 2 faders in the X32. It's a 1 fader, and so you aren't having to either link faders or what have you to keep that stereo mix going right for our computer feed, for our loops, for our
keyboard,
keyboard,
any stereo elements that we're using.
you know, and when somebody comes in, because we have alternating electric guitars, some of them have a stereo output, and we can actually accommodate them really easily. There's just a lot more packed into it, and just remembering what screen are you on, and things that catch me off guard. I go on to a Sends on Fader for the live stream mix, and I forget that I'm on Sends on Fader and think I'm doing that. But I could find that happen in the X32 as well. So I think that would be the biggest thing that I would say. Staying with the X32, it's a little bit simpler, but all the benefits that we've gotten out of this board, multi-track, stereo channels, 4 outputs that are not using up mix buses, outweigh the X32.
Yeah, the one other feature that I think of that we use quite a bit that you can get away, you can pull this off with the X32, but it's a little bit more complicated. It's just in-ear mixing. So when we run rehearsal, he records the first song of rehearsal, and then a single button press, he reroutes all of the channels with one button press to play back what we just recorded, and we can mix hands-free, like we're not having to play and try and mix our in-ears. We literally listen to ourselves of what we just played, we can mix our in-ears, and then he pushes a button again, and it routes back to the actual channels. And it's like, it's amazing being able to be hands-free and actually mix your in-ears.
And all the multi-track recording is to the SD card.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Which is, yeah. Other boards can do that too, but yeah,
Yep.
but you're saying just, and I know on the X32, yeah, you can flip your routing settings to be, local inputs to card inputs or whatever.
Yep.
But it's just, you're just saying it's a bit more streamlined with this board.
Yeah.
Just a little bit more streamlined and simpler to pull off.
Yep.
And the fact that you'd have to have a laptop or something to do the multi-track there, depending on what card
Or
you
the
have.
card.
Yeah, or the card for it. So
Yep. Awesome. Well, guys, I mean, any other final thoughts or words of advice for people who are like on the fence of pulling the trigger for this console? Maybe they're even considering like switching over to Allen and Heath or stuff like that. And I think that's the other thing too, is like thinking about what ecosystem you're in. And like if you already bought into Behringer with your stage boxes, monitors, maybe this is the right place to go if you're looking to upgrade from an X32.
Correct.
Right? But
Yeah, it
I
depends.
don't know. Any other words of advice? Like who wouldn't want to make that upgrade if that's the case of where they're at right now? Like, did you think about the SQ5 or any of the other models, or were you pretty much like the Wing is what we want?
No, because honestly, the price tag to make this upgrade. So if you're running out of channels and you're already in the Behringer ecosystem, this upgrade is just, it's comparatively speaking, it's so cheap because you don't have to get any of the other equipment. If you, if you're ready to make the leap elsewhere, then you're talking like, okay, what feature set? This has a lot of the features that all those others have. I guess there's the big one is the iPad app still isn't out. That's a little bit annoying from time to time still, but there's promises to come, and they've, in the past, Behringer's been pretty good about upgrading. So that was a risk we were willing to take. Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't they upgrade? I guess if you don't like the preamps, this actually does come up with a little bit upgrade in preamps from the X32. But
If you're using the same stage boxes, you
Yeah.
still got the same preamps as
Yep.
what you had with the X32.
and if we actually ended up selling our X32, and so like the cost difference, you're talking to really increase your channel count, and get a few other bells and whistles, you're talking a pretty cheap upgrade.
Yep. That's awesome. Well, thanks so much, guys. I think this is a really great to hear from someone who's actually owned this board for 4 months now. Oh, and hardware's been fine, right? You haven't had anything fall apart on you yet?
Nope.
Okay. Because I know when the X32 first came out, there like 10 years ago, there's lots of like faders would fail. Like I had a X32 do that to me, but it seems like music group or music truck, whatever they're called, Behringer has figured out how to get the quality control up on these devices. So cool.
So far, so good.
No red flags there. Awesome. Well, if you guys have any comments, questions, leave them down below in the comments, and then Aaron or Eric, they might just take some time to peruse your comments and answer your questions. So super helpful. Make sure you guys smash like, subscribe to the channel, and keep up the great work in your ministry. See ya.